Hey, this is Roleplaying Public Radio. This is RPPR, episode 84, Murphy Rules. This is Ross Payton, and with me, as always, Tom Church.
Yeah, I noticed that the announcer voice didn't kick in right away. You actually had a few seconds of normal voice there.
I know,
Are you trying something new?
I am trying something new. It's an evolution of my my process.
Evolution is an ongoing process.
It is.
And it's beautiful.
All right. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the disconnect between game rules and game logic versus reality versus genre conventions. This comes from the infamous Murphy's Rules, a series of comics about the foibles of role-playing game rules. And we'll talk a little bit about some examples of what I mean by that later on in the episode. So, but first off, we have some news, of course.
Yes.
First off is the Base Raiders update, as will be until I get the book done. So right now, the writing and the artwork is on schedule. I've been focused on that. However, the editing and the layout is behind schedule because the people I wanted to get to help me with the editing and layout have been busy with other commitments. So that doesn't mean the book is still on schedule overall, but what it does mean is that I haven't had time to create a separate version of the game text to send out to people for some of the people who wanted to play test it, because right now the bulk of the rules, I've got over 75,000 words written of it, and including all the game rules, but that's in a big mess. It's kind of text, and I need to lay out. I'm not going to send out the play test without the tables and the chart so that you can actually read it and understand it. I just want to send it as a huge, massive PDF of just
because Ross is not that big of a monster.
Well, it would be kind of a pain in the ass to read through, you know.
Yeah, it would.
Because especially with Strange Fate, there's actually a whole flow chart to figure out how your powers should be used. So there's that, and so I don't have an ETA for the play test, but the book itself is still on task to be printed, to be released in July of this year. So we're getting some great art.
I've seen some. It looks really great.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to find some really great freelancers. And so, yeah, and if you've read Pariah, the short story, please review it on Amazon. There's the short book, ebook version of it. And we'll have some more material for you on the Kickstarter, some more previews of the art and that kind of thing. But yeah, so for those of you who want to playtest it, you just have to wait a little longer so I can have time to focus on, because working on the playtest is time I'm not working on the book itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you.
Because I have to again make it look pretty so you guys can actually read the playtest. And so that I'm sorry about that, but again, I'm working on my part is okay, but I need the help of other people to do it, and there's just a lot of people very busy.
There's no I in team.
I know. So don't worry, we're still getting it done. I also want to give out a couple other things news-wise. I want to thank the people who donate to RPPR.
You guys rock.
Yeah, because there is if you notice on the RPPR main site, there is a page where you can subscribe to RPPR for $2 a month. And there's no benefit. It's just a way to show your support for that. And there's some people who do that. And I want to say thank you to all those who have been doing that for a while. And I really appreciate it. It really helps
You see, Ross is a monster, and praise is alien to him. It takes him a long time to work up the will to do so.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, Ross.
So then that hurt just saying thank you. So
there you go.
That little $2 every month helps pay for web hosting, domain name registration, the Minecraft server. Although I don't know if I'll renew it this year, after this year, and things of that nature. So like WordPress names and all this other stuff. So thank you for all that. And let's see here, other things. Raillery, I finally got a Roxio game capture HD device, which lets me capture footage from my Xbox 360 to the computer. So Caleb and I are going to do a co-op playthrough of Dead Space 3. Now I need to get a new headset to actually capture us talking on it, because apparently that's not saved. Like, it saves the game video and audio, but not the fucking game chat. So, but there's a workaround for it. And but I need a new net headset and cables, and it's just a thing.
So, sorry, Mr. Payton, It can't be easy for you.
No, oh
Nothing
god,
will.
this has been the most fucking painful. Oh man, just doing this. Okay, so I got the capture device. It uses component or HDMI. My old Xbox is actually one of the original Xbox 360s. It doesn't have HDMI out, so I was like, fine, I'll fucking do it in component video. So I set that up because I've been using the DVI import. The same thing used to hook up computer monitors. That's how I've been getting playing. But my original Xbox 360 red rings. And
one ring to fuck them all.
Like, yeah, I nursed that thing along as I could, but it finally gave in. And I found out GameStop lets me trade in red ringed Xboxes, so I had to get a new Xbox, and then I had to Dead Space 3, had to renew my Xbox Live account, and it's just been this huge hassle, and also setting up the software and hardware, configuring, make sure it works.
And so you and Kayla will be doing stuff with that?
Yes.
And I will too, because I've actually ordered the last thing I need to do, some stuff I was going to do on the Xbox.
Yeah, and well, tell us about that.
It's going to be me. It's going to be me playing Mortal Kombat, the newest one for the Xbox 360.
Yeah,
which essentially it's going to be me doing.
We'll figure out exactly what we can do it online, or you can do it single player.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with the Xbox controllers because I was an arcade player back in the day of Mortal Kombat.
You were a champion.
Yeah, we actually back when Aladdin's Castle, the greatest arcade in Springfield, was still there. Yeah, they actually had a citywide tournament for Mortal Kombat 3, and I was in it, and I won the whole thing.
Did you get an award?
I got a.
So you're an award-winning Mortal Kombat player.
Yeah, I am. I got a ribbon. I got a handheld Mortal Kombat game. The old Namco type things.
Like for a Game Boy, or
no, like an individual LCD type handheld game.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I got a T-shirt and a hat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, but I'll be doing that just with.
If you still had that stuff, you could wear it now and be a total hipster.
I totally could. The problem is, it was clothing made to fit me as a teenager. Which isn't such an option anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, it'll be me playing that and then just doing whatever kind of commentary, talking bullshit thing I want to do over it.
Yeah, we'll record it. So you're ordering the arcade controller for it.
I have ordered it, and of course, it takes a while to get it there, but it is on the way.
Yeah, so we'll have a lot of 360 footage. If there are any other types of games you want us to play on Raillery, let us know. If I've been trying to experiment with Raillery, whether we should do really long playthroughs of Aaron and I did the Portal 2 co-op campaign, one of their DLC campaigns, Art Therapy, or if I should do really short ones or in between. So
I have
experimenting with it.
And I have some more news.
Oh yeah,
I would like to say that if you all remember the old audio skits we used to do back in the day when we had a really good audio editor who did all the work for us.
Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, until you decide to join the Navy.
Yeah, be productive.
Yeah,
Jesus.
And serve your country. But no, I will be doing some more of those. Some more like GM and DM type things.
Great.
Some new fake commercials that I'm writing.
Great.
So we'll have some new comedy audio for you.
Great. So that's in the pipeline. Other things in the pipeline. I have not forgotten the video camera we have. I'm actually planning to do a improv comedy web series about. I'm doing it with Nathan Shelton, some other actors. It's going to be a little like The Office. I know that very original, right? But it's going to be the meetings of a Cthulhu cult. Only they're going to be like Robert Rules of Order type meetings, and they're not very good at being a Cthulhu cult.
Well,
so,
it takes work.
It takes work, exactly, and they're new to it. They don't know all the rituals yet. They're kind of so. I'm in pre-production for that. I've got the outline. I got it outlined. Got Nathan on board, and got some other actors on board. So I'm gonna throw that out. Tom might show up for an episode or two.
Yeah, I might. Yeah.
I haven't got everything figured out yet. We're working on building props. Anyway, so that's in the pipeline as well. And then the final thing is Unspeakable Oath. 22 is out, which is a great Call Cthulhu / horror magazine. And this issue is fucking great because my writing is in it.
Oh, yeah.
Every issue of the Unspeakable Oath ends with a section called A Message in a Bottle, which is like a 1-page short story that's supposed to be like a found document, that's supposed to imply something. So I wrote something called The Thing in the Box. And what is the thing in the box? What is it?
Is it anything like a dick in the box?
No, it's
different, very different. Okay, good.
So you need to. I know you're going there. I knew it was like you're going to be like Jason. Yeah, as soon as I said thing about you're going to like. Tom's going to do that.
Oh, you know me too well.
I know. So that's there. So pick up that issue. There's a lot of other good stuff in there. There is. I sent Shane Ivey a playtest recording we did of Die High, which is a scenario in the Unspeakable Oath.
This
issue.
It's the high line, the power line workers, right?
Yeah. High Rise in Chicago. I don't want to spoil anything else about it. I don't know when he's going to post it exactly, but I sent it to him, so hopefully by the time this episode goes up, you'll see that. And it's pretty. I haven't read the revised thing since the playtest. I don't know how much they've changed it since then. So anyway, that is a lot of news.
Yeah,
but we do a lot of things.
We like to keep you informed.
Oh no, wait, we totally forgot one thing. The No Evil fan creation contest.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, we've been getting some great entries have started trickling in, and
some of them are just amazing.
They're
all amazing, but
some are more amazing.
Some have literally blown me away.
Yeah.
That wow, we have talented people that listen to us. Very talented.
You guys
rock.
So yeah, there's been the video of the Eau de Preston.
Eau de Preston.
Yeah. Which is just.
For the record,
the idea was pretty brilliant. Yeah. That was
for the record.
Original.
Preston never had a mustache.
Well,
but that's like I said, that's like a hypercorp to misrepresent you.
Yeah, fucking.
God, you can't. When you can't trust hypercorporations, who can you trust?
Who can you trust? So we are really thrilled for every entry that's coming in. Or
Caleb has actually said it's like Christmas every day.
Yeah, every time we get a new entry, it's really nice. Now, I do want to revise the rules a little bit in two ways. One, we will. Basically, I'm extending the deadline for the entries to be accepted until 2 weeks after the last episode is posted. And when the last episode is posted, I'll have that exact date posted. Basically, because I want to give people a chance to
know how shit ended.
To incorporate what the end of the campaign and its ramifications into their work. So if you're writing a story about what happens to Preston or Gerard or Cyrock or whatever, you want to hear what happens at the end of the campaign. So I'll give you, or you want to do something based on the ending of the campaign, like what happens to them after the campaign, or one of the characters, if they survive. So that's the first change. Second change is there will just be a first, third, second, third place, but every entry. We have more than 3 posters left over. The No Evil post. So I'll just send out all the posters I have. So every copy we send out will be autographed by all of us, but we'll send out all the posters I have available to me. And even after the top 3, we'll send out to every notable entry. So that's another incentive. So don't think that because there are bad entries that you think are better, you can never manage that. You won't have a chance of getting one of these posters.
You will.
This is about you guys and how awesome No Evil is, and RPPR is so awesome. So anyway,
awesome. You guys rock.
Yes. So that's in terms of news. So glad we didn't forget that. So let's get on to the main episode. The Murphy's Rules. Murphy Rules. What do we mean by that? So this episode again was inspired by a thread I saw on the Something Awful forums in the traditional games subforum where they're talking about Murphy's Rules, and the whole idea is. In game rules, there's a disconnect between the game rules, the genre the game is supposed to emulate, and reality itself. And movies, obviously, we catch that like these kind of the difference between genre and reality pretty easy. Like that guy, 50 guys are shooting in James Bond, they're gonna fucking hit him. He's not gonna be that bulletproof or they're not all gonna miss. But in game rules, there's this third layer, and that's where, because the game rules are meant to emulate the genre and reality to a certain degree, and the problem is people don't really think of game designers can't think of every single instance or
scenario.
Yeah, scenario. So you have these things. So the examples I read were all for the 3rd edition D&D or 3.5 Pathfinder kind of compatible, because it's been around a while, so there's been a lot
people have had a chance to pick it apart, and
there's it's also because of so many fucking supplements for it. I mean, the core, if you just have the 3 game rule,
the core books,
you're not really too bad, but then you get things like, sometimes it does get bad, like the knowledge checks. Like you have to make, to identify a monster, you have to make a knowledge check based on the appropriate skill, and the DC is based on the hit dice of the monster. So it's like 10 plus the hit dice of the monster for like divine creatures, angels or demons, that kind of thing. And
so like the Tarrasque could be really hard to identify.
Right, exactly. But what it really comes, the what the fuck part, the Murphy's Rule comes part in when you take a priest, max knowledge in religion, blah, 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 but then so a priest of Palor, and then Palor appears in the flesh. Palor's got like 50 hit dice, so the DC is going to be like 40 or 50, so Palor's like, behold my child! And it's like,
who are you?
Who the fuck are you? I don't know.
I mean, you're very shiny, yes, but...
So you have these people just walking in this constant existential crisis, wondering about what they can't. Commoners can't identify themselves.
Like, would I know my god if I saw him?
Well, and it's not just that. Commoners, a level 1.
Who am I?
Yeah, a level 1 commoner wouldn't have the skill ranks to identify himself. Because that would still be a DC 10 or 12, DC 11 a knowledge check, and you don't. The commoner's not going to have ranks in that. He's not going to have a bonus to intelligence.
No, he's too busy with his plow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you could tell him he was an elf, and he's like, oh, I guess I am. It's an elf, So that's the first kind of disconnect. Then there's another one, the Jumplomancer. And this can really be done with any skills, but I think it's best with jump. And basically the idea is you work up your jump skill to an absurd level, and it's very possible to do that. The build that's mentioned in the thread has like a bonus of plus 370, and a plus 370 jump. You could just take a running start and jump 900 feet straight up in the air. And it takes you a minute to land because of how the falling rules work. And then the thing is, there's a way, there's a skill trick or some way to use another skill as a substitute for diplomacy. And the thing is, to get a neutral or even a fanatic, someone who fucking hates you, to be a fanatically loyal follower is still like DC 60. So with a plus 370, you basically run up to a crowd of orcs, jump,
and come back down
a minute later, and they all fucking love you.
Would die for you.
Yeah, they would die for you. And I just imagine that explains Michael Jordan in Space Jam, but still that's like holy shit. And then the best one though is the Locate City nuke. There is basically a way for a level 7 wizard to take a level 1 divination spell, Locate City, with an area of effect of like 10 miles per level. So 70 miles. And basically take a certain chain of feats to turn that into a cold spell, then a damaging spell. The effect does 2 points of damage to everything in the area. And then make that electric, and then make that energy, and then make that exploding. So, and 1d6 damage per 10 feet of area of effect. So you're doing like 39,600.
This is a Dragon Ball Z giant, planet destroying.
It is because 70, like it, depending on how you interpret the spell, if is it 70 miles in a plane
or a 70-mile sphere?
Yeah, 70-mile sphere, because then you're going into the fucking mantle and exposing molten lava so that's a doomsday spell.
It's level 7.
Well, it's a level 1 spell. It's a level 7 character can do it. So again, these are the kind of things Murphy's rules are about.
Hey, this is a nice world you got there.
Yeah,
be a shame if something were to happen to it.
Yeah, exactly. So. And then the classic examples, in GURPS, -10 to fight in the dark. Okay, it's hard to fight in total darkness. Yeah. The penalty to fight while you're on fire is -6. So if you're in total darkness, just take that fire damage and set yourself on fire, and you'll be better off. So that's kind of a minor thing. So we have this disconnect between games, reality, and game rules. So
sure.
I know that's come up a lot of times in your games too.
Well, particularly, I played Palladium.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's Oh, so many things.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the game does it to itself,
right?
Depending on the palladium. Just a simple one. I tried Recon, which was just the Palladium modern combat system.
Really Vietnam, but yeah.
Yeah, Vietnam particularly, but it's for any war zone.
Yeah.
With guns.
Yeah.
And the players, it was weird. As with these were players that knew Palladium, of course. So
yeah.
They were actually like before they were going into battle.
Yeah.
They were playing like, all right, like. Says the first 15 seconds, I know you can do 5 things in 15 seconds. You can do 4 things in 15 seconds. So here's what I want you guys to do in the first 15 seconds of this combat. They were planning by, combat round, which is 15 seconds.
Right.
And going by the number of attacks per melee round. And they were even doing with the enemy, like, all right, it's like, all right, we know the enemy is not nearly as experienced as us, so they could probably only do like 2 or 3 things per 15 seconds. So I say first things, we just defend and duck and cover for the first 3 things in this 15 seconds, and then afterwards they can't respond, so that's when we lay into them with burst fire.
You don't really see.
I've never seen. I've watched movies.
6. Yeah,
I've watched a lot of movies, and I've actually seen a few, actual scenes of the reporters behind, embedded with our troops, and they're doing some strategizing thing. I've never seen that happen.
Yeah, never like charge, let them shoot at us until they're out of actions, and then return fire because then they can't dodge. You know, That's a very good example of this kind of disconnect. So the question is, there's a couple of problems that come up with this. One is when you're game master and you're wanting to run something, usually like I want to run a dark horror game. I want to run modern combat. I want to run a genre, basically.
Yeah.
And when players do that, it kind of breaks your immersion as the GM, not to mention the players, to they're not playing that genre. They're playing the genre of the game.
And actually, I see people that play a lot of D&D seem to have, that seems to be what I've noticed, they have the worst. When you try to, when a lot of like D&D players, and you try to send them somewhere else, they're still operating on that, Tolkien fantasy type thing.
Yeah. I mean, the typical thing, like, in Lord of the Rings, you have characters that, they fight and the battle lasts hours and it's a very epic thing. They have long journeys, blah, blah. They only rest at the end of a day of marching. But in D&D, like, you wake up, let's go marching. All right, so we're in the forest. Oh, we fight giant spiders. All right, the wizard cast all his fireball spells. Let's sleep for 8 hours. So the wizard, there's no monsters around, so let's wait for the wizard to get his spells back. Which doesn't Gandalf's like, hold up, dudes.
Gandalf can just do whatever. Gandalf just does things.
Yeah, he doesn't say, hold up, bros. I need my spells back.
I need to rest for the next 8 hours.
Yeah, I need to rest for the next. So that's kind of like. It becomes its own thing. It's a different genre of fiction. I mean, it's like Lord of the Rings versus Order of the Stick, and not you can't do drama and stuff like that. But it's kind of a mind shift. So I mean, the first off, how much of that is that happens? I think we both agree that happens in a lot of games. But is that even a problem? I mean, what do you think?
It depends. I once again think this kind of comes down to who you're playing with, how long you've been playing together.
Yeah.
If it's this, I mean, a lot of times, even if you're moving to a wildly different system, if it's still the same people you've gamed with for a long time, I really think especially as a GM, you're going to be able to deal with it and them because you just know them.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a problem when you're like, you're like, I don't know about a guest GM or you're going to a new group because like one of them's like, hey, could you run this game for my group? I don't think they've ever done that, which I've done a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I think it's more when like these players are, you're not too familiar with them yet, or you're doing a system or a genre that's wildly different than what they've been doing for a long time.
Yeah.
Like RPPR, it's like, I think our crew, it's not much of a problem. We play all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
But there's some groups that have never played anything but D&D.
Right, this is true. And when you do that in Call of Cthulhu, you can't
because like come on, in D&D, like you encounter a monster, your first is, all right, let's strategize how. All right, it's like, what's this thing? What's its weaknesses? What do we know about this? In Call of Cthulhu, the monster, a lot of times monsters are like, it's going to kill you if you stand your ground.
Yeah.
So we have to no, it's just going to kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like Cthulhu shows up. 1d4 of you are going to not be there after this.
1d6.
1d6. Oh, is it 1d6?
I believe it's 1d6. I mean, we could refer to the rules, but
that would require us to go pick up a book.
Yeah, that's right behind you. But yeah. But anyway, it's the same point, you know. I mean, that's a good point. You know, once you get used to the players, you know, like you could, and then if you know your group well, you can adjust it to achieve like the effect that you want. I mean, intent matters too. Like,
yes.
For like the Tokyo game, like I'm running Knight's Black Agent right now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this more in the anecdotes, by the way. But there's three campaigns. For
Indeed,
RPPR.
3.
So my campaign, Knight's Black Agent, was vampire espionage set in Tokyo, and so I kind of am making changes a little bit to accommodate you guys. Like for example, Jason, like in the first session I made sure I had lots of Japanese names for all the characters, and so which is very much a genre. You're in fucking Tokyo, everyone's Japanese, but Jason was like, I can't keep track of all these Japanese names, and so I'm like, all right, I'll start coming up with nicknames some of these characters that are easier for you to remember. So the next session will be a little more like that. So I'm sort of adjusting it so he can stay immersed, and so we can still have, even though it wouldn't be quite as accurate per se.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, like I'm basing a lot of my text of this game on the book I mentioned in previous episodes, Speed Tribes, which was written in the 90s. And I'm setting it, though, in 2013. I don't know how much of that, information about the Yakuza, where they hang out, what kind of crimes they do is accurate. I think, like I actually read online that one element in my game, the Bosozuku, which are motorcycle street gangs, aren't as nearly as popular as they used to be. Like they've been declining in membership. So that's slightly anachronistic, but who cares?
They're cool.
Yeah, they're cool. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I've done the same thing with names too. Like, remember Divine Fire? I had a lot of German and a lot of German names.
Oh yeah.
But I just eventually that's the corporal, that's the captain, the colonel, the doctor.
Yeah, functional names, and then that's adjusting it so the players can stay immersed, and so you're trying to get more of what you're like. Again, a lot of it also depends on what you're trying to do is what you're trying to do as a game master. What kind of effect. I think game masters have different goals in mind, which is a big thing. Like I want to scare my players. All right, I want to have a good time. I want to tell this kind of story. I want to do this type of game. They have different types of goals, and so you have to think about what it is and how you're going to go about it. And that's obviously a lot easier to do with people but yeah, new players.
That's always a challenge, regardless.
Yeah.
I think.
And new players, I think, are also going to be more likely to go into. All players, though, I think their ultimate authority is always going to be the game rules. You can say, well, why are you doing this? Why are you resting now, even though it's fucking 9:00 in the morning? You just woke up. Yeah, I had spiders attack you, 20 minutes after you woke up, but you have a whole fucking day. Well, fuck that. I want my spells back. We don't have a time limit, right? No. We can. There's no other monsters nearby because those giant spiders.
Yeah, we're not out of schedule.
Yeah. There's no, all the other monsters were eaten up by the spiders, right? Well, yeah, obviously, so there's nothing in miles around us. So let's fucking sleep because I don't want to fucking fight and have another encounter.
I want to reload.
Yeah, I want to reload. So the players are going to want to stick to the rules.
It's basically spending 8 hours to reload your artillery.
Yeah. So, but they're not going to, even though it doesn't make sense from a genre perspective, they're going to refer to that because that's what's going to ultimately matter is whether or not their characters can do something. That's measured in game mechanics, game rules, not in genre. Like, if they did go on that march without the spells, and then 12 hours later, as they're about to 7 hours later, they're at a ridge and orcs attack, and the wizard they all get killed and be like, well, we didn't have fireball spells, because
the wizard's like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I can't do it. We're fucked. So, and then the game master looks at you. Well, that's you
should have rested.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. So. Most of the time, though, it kind of depends on the genre too, and what type of game you're doing. Whether this is
I want to superhero genres, it's not so much of a problem because really anything really goes in those.
Yeah, unless if you're doing a really stylized.
Okay, like your Age of Masks game was very stylized and specific.
Yeah,
but I'm talking just a straight up
Marvel,
DC, Mutants and Masterminds. Really, at that point, any logic will eventually work. When you can do aliens, mystics, super soldiers, cyborgs in the same game, really, at this point, like, do we really care about physics and shit?
I know you were talking about earlier about RJ's character in Mutants.
Yeah, he had a character that it had basically the perception powers that he could essentially perceive anything around him for miles down to the molecular level.
Yeah.
So essentially, he just knew what was going on all around him at all times. Yeah. So it was...
You were running the game, though, right?
I was running the game. This is probably a game that won't see the light of day. It did not last long.
We did a couple sessions of it, but again, it's just kind of like our queue is so backed up as it is. I kind of like get the games out that the people want.
But it's essentially I couldn't surprise him with anything. Like no plot points could be unexpected because he just picked up. He could pick up conversation going on across the city.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things like it was one of those times I just gave up as a GM because like, all right, I'm not going to be able to really do anything here.
Yeah, because in the superhero genre, a character might have that power, like Superman has that power, basically. But they always come up with some MacGuffin to say, well, Lex Luthor built a thing.
He has a lead-lined bunker, so Superman can't see through.
So that's why.
But RJ really didn't have anything that made him unable to do so.
Right. So the writer always has control over that, and Superman. It's not like Superman's go like, I totally should have been able to hear you. That's bullshit. Like what is he going to argue to? But players can always argue. They can appeal their case to God, basically. Like what the fuck, GM? What's going on? Yeah. So,
and at my point, I should have read the power when I was reviewing characters more closely. But.
Yeah. And that's kind of the challenge of the superhero genre is that there's a very weak disconnect between the genre and the game rules. But in most genres, there's a much more pronounced thing.
Actually, I'll say mutants and masterminds, if I may speak cool about them for a moment.
Yeah.
And actually, at least in the 3rd edition book that I have, no, 2nd edition, 3rd edition I haven't bought yet, but they actually have a few like little disclaimers put up against certain powers. Like one of them is quickness, which allows you to do long, complicated tasks in a much shorter time.
Right.
It says at certain ranks you could actually like disassemble a car in a second, and not just destroy it, but like take it apart to its component pieces. And he says like this power is potentially game breaking, or and it's why we will never have this. And this does not mean you can land 8.5 million punches on your opponent's body in 0.5 seconds.
Right.
Because that would break the game.
Yeah.
So in some cases, they actually mention like, hey, be wary of players taking these particular powers. We threw them in because it wouldn't be a complete comic book superhero game if we didn't. But be wary of them.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So that's why it's a problem, is when the game rules basically get in the way of the game itself. And when, sometimes it's the players who fucking, come up with some solution you didn't think of, and you're like, well,
fuck, that kind of...
I mean, and that's a perfectly acceptable way of ending. It's like, well, this game's screwed, it's better to just pull the plug and try something else than to keep going on something that's, structurally unsound, basically. At least I don't know. But
I'm the same way. I should have ended it after that first session.
Yeah,
but I go in like
redo character creation.
I think I went like one more session, and after I was like, no, I'm done. Yeah, this is just not going to work.
So but that's obviously disappointing. You don't want to do that you can't just give up.
So I think I didn't. I should have there should have been more discussion back and forth when creating characters. And I should have paid more attention to it. Just. Communication. Mm-hmm. Once again, an experienced group should do that always.
Right. But, it's going to happen sooner or later. Somebody will find some loophole or some way to do this, especially not just in superheroes, but in fantasy genres. And anytime where characters have access to supernatural powers.
And I would actually say, and that's once again where a cohesive group comes through, because then you can go, hey, dude, this is really not going to work.
Just more of the social contract, like try and go
reach a compromise, or just like, hey, like, do you think you could, just not do this or something?
Right.
9 times out of 10, if they're a close group, it's not going to be a problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's always going to be the case like the invisible wizard 400 feet overhead raining down fireballs. And so all your fights either have to be geared towards the wizard or you kind of have to ignore the wizard. And that kind of situation, I don't know, comes up a lot. Well, I mean, sometimes, what do you do when one character is far more effective than the others? One who's mastered the rules or something like that. So there, and that's a problem, I think. Sometimes, again, it depends on the group. Sometimes the players won't mind if the wizard does all the heavy lifting or whatever. But for me, one of the things I do aside from just talking to them is try to revise the rules, make new rulings, basically say, all right, and players don't like that because it's kind of not fair, but you kind of have to do it every once in a while. All right, so you've been able to do this combo of skills or powers or whatever.
Feats and
it's been really good for you so far, but from now on, it no longer works. It works like this. You just have to make a new ruling, just house ruler or whatever, saying it doesn't work. And then the way you placate players is like, all right, if that's unfair to your character, you can sort of redesign your character to a certain degree. You can pick new spells if you're a wizard. You can redistribute your points a little bit if you're a superhero.
If they kind of refuse to do that, you can also create new enemies that can negate what they're doing.
Yeah, kind of like a grudge monster kind of thing. Like I'm, oh, you're Dragon Man. Well, I'm Dragon Slayer. Fuck you, Dragon Man. And you go after him. I mean, and that's fine. That again, you don't want to be too vindictive about that.
But you don't want to make it a pissing contest between you, the player, and the GM.
Right. That's
because first of all, the GM's going to win because he's the GM.
Yeah. Well, nobody really wins in those because nobody's having fun, and it just gets awkward and tense around the table, and you're like,
and then you finally have to hey, let's take a break and watch a movie or something.
Yeah, that's no fun. So and sometimes it's unlimited, and a lot of times I think it's usually like one player's figured out the rules a little better, and he figures out that one thing. Sometimes it's the entire group, and you just all stumble upon a situation that is like, holy shit, this does not make sense at all. And like you're talking about the Star Wars game with the freighter. Right?
Oh my god, I know we might. I think we've mentioned this before, but it certainly is valid to what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
It was the game we were running back at MSU. And we were playing. It was Star Wars. I think it was not Saga. It was like the D20 edition.
Yeah.
And we were in a freighter running from trying to get work at. We had to flee like 2 or 3 rounds while this Star Destroyer is bearing down on us before we can jump to hyperspace and escape. And of course we're players. I believe David was the one who said, "Well, it says like, okay, we got 2 rounds. Can we like fire back at this thing for the 2 rounds?" He's like, "Oh yeah, sure. You guys can, make shots if that's what you want to do." I think it was from like, "Oh, okay. I guess you guys don't want to just be hoping like, okay, come on, can our pilot do successful rolls for 2 rounds? Like, we want to be involved."
Yeah.
So I think every player who was not flying the ship grabbed a weapon, a weapon station on the freighter. I think it was
heavily armed freighter.
Well, for a freighter, there was like 3 turbo laser batteries and a torpedo launcher in back.
So, okay, 4 weapons. Yeah,
it was like I believe it was 4, and we had each of us had 2 rounds of combat. So I believe it was like
what version of Star Wars was this?
This was the D20 standard D20
before Saga.
Before Saga.
Okay.
So all of us, all the players who weren't flying, were really were combat characters.
Yeah.
Took weapons, and we had 2 rounds of combat while this thing is bearing down on us. And all across the table became crit, crit. And when it was all tallied up, we had done enough damage to completely destroy the Star Destroyer chasing us. Which, in itself, sounds cool, but when you think about it, if I may use a World War II example, that would be like a PT boat utterly destroying the Yamato in the Pacific. It's like the largest battleship that was ever built chasing down a PT boat, and the PT boat firing its rear-mounted weapons brings it down. I'm sorry. There is simply no physics in the world that would allow that to happen.
Because it's like atomic PT boat. Yeah. So you have these kind of massive disconnects, and what do you do in a situation like that, as a player or as a GM?
Well, I remember what Matt did. He said, okay, no, there is no way that you're going to destroy this. I will say you have disabled it.
Yeah.
And the other group was cool with that.
Yeah.
He says, you can disable it. However, you cannot turn around to try to finish it off.
Yeah.
Because its weapons still work.
Yeah.
All right. And the group, we realized that, okay, the group rallied around like, okay, we're with you. We understand. we will always talk about this forever and eternity. But we will, for the sake of the story, we will escape like we planned.
Right, and that was a good group.
Yeah.
Good
and of course we joked when Vader came on board to determine
we got some more Star Destroyers for us.
Who failed, and it would be the one time he would step on board the ship and say, and look at the captain who failed, no, no, this was fucked up.
You get a pass.
You get a pass this time.
Today.
Like all of you get a pass and a day off.
Yeah. That was...
That's fucked.
Come back Monday. We'll regroup.
Have some motivational speakers.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Developers are...
Yeah. It's just like, yeah.
But once again, I think that shows that if a group's works well together and they're and they hang out, they do well together, you can overcome things like that when they pop up.
Right. So these can be so I mean the main thing is obviously just working with your players, knowing who they are, and coming to a mutually agreed upon solution, which is obviously every problem in gaming is best done that way, except for assholes who just need to be kicked out.
And
which is totally different.
It hasn't happened to me very often, like once or twice, but
yeah, but. It kind of raises a larger question too. So these kind of situations come up, you kind of band-aid, patch around them, deal with them. But the question is more of like what should be done in general. What's a better policy? Is it better to? I mean, in a case where you have this incongruous situation, what do you look for to guidance? Do you look to reality? Do you look to the genre, or do you look to the game rules? I mean, what is your ultimate authority? Obviously in a Star Wars game, that answer should probably be fucking the Star Wars movies.
Yes.
You're trying to emulate fucking Star Wars. You're playing a game called Star Wars. Play Star Wars. So
and we're even the best pilot in the galaxy, Han Solo,
right,
wasn't about to go turn and take on a Star Destroyer.
Right, and
I mean, granted, he do it as a trick to maneuver and then latch onto the back of the bridge tower, which is cool.
Right,
but he had no thought in his mind. If I score just 8 perfectly timed hits, I could destroy that thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then, in games that aren't absolutely modeled on one particular work of fiction or reality, like your recon game, what do you look for, or in a generic D&D or Pathfinder fantasy type game, like what do you refer to, Tom? What is your preference? Are you trying to emulate genre? Are you trying to get reality, whatever that is? Or are you trying to if the game rules produce the situation, do you ultimately accept order the stick? You reorder the stick, so you know what I'm getting at.
I more go genre.
Yeah,
and and like in the case if I was running a game where some player came up with the detect city nuke, I just go, no level 7 wizard's is ever going to do that. I'm sorry. If you were a level 20 wizard, I still would be reluctant, but I would actually entertain the idea. But no, not. You are a fairly experienced wizard. You are not Goku. Sorry.
But I mean, an obvious, or the Jumplomancer. Like, what if even if it wasn't at game-breaking levels? What if the guy just had a did something that was incongruous, but not necessarily game-breaking, like a plus 40 to his jump score, and using that.
I would make it to. I could see that not in changing their attitude of you from hostile to fanatical.
Yeah.
But I could say you could use it as like an impress or an intimidate check to to essentially get them to back down. If it's orcs, and they get them to back down to try to kill you.
Well, I mean, the rules as written say it could be used as a substitute for a diplomacy check. So, the thing is, if you let a guy who does that, let's just say he only does that. He doesn't use any other rules to get it. He just maxes out his jump score. He takes skill focused jump, and he takes that one feat that lets him use it as diplomacy. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, from a genre point of view, that a guy who's really good at jumping can impress people like that.
No, well, the thing is, I would ask him, explain to me how this would work. They would go from wanting to kill you, and then
so you want
jump.
a genre.
I would want a genre thing. If you could explain that to me, and it's going to have to be a really good explanation. Now, I would say that if you were wanting to use it as a diplomacy, not to make them fanatical, but just to maybe get them to not want to attack you, get them to I would let them go from hostile to neutral. We're all right, hey, let's back off here. I don't know what the hell that was, but we don't know what else this guy might be able to do.
There you go.
But I would never have it, and suddenly they love you. Unless they have some kind of legend, there will come a day when the man who leaps into the sky will become leader to us all.
Well, that raises an interesting question, and that's, at what point, how much do you collaborate with the player? Like, if the player does this and he does some backstory about he's basically Michael Jordan, but an elf, and he does all this work, how do you meet him halfway? Do you start like adjusting your game to like?
I will. I mean, if he really has it in his background, I mean, if it's obvious it didn't just come. I just thought of this right this moment. Right. But if he actually told me, like, when we started the game, because I always encourage players to come up with some backstories, because that's, I kind of like to have stuff to work with in the game that's personal to them. I always find players, if it's something personal to their characters, they really get into it.
Yeah.
So I encourage them to do that. And if he had done that, I would have, all right. I'll work with you on this. Yeah. Maybe if we could just hold off from doing it right this second, so maybe where I could pause the game, like, all right, come talk to me for a moment here.
Yeah,
I'd work with them.
Yeah,
but if it just popped out of nowhere, no, I would allow it to happen as far as I think the game itself would allow.
Yeah,
but then I would not. But if I could tell what was like, oh, if I let this go all the way, we're gonna have a broken, sunken game here. Yeah. I would not.
Okay, so you're more concerned with the overall health of the game.
Yes, and I guess I usually go by genre more than I do rules.
Okay,
and once again, it's while fantasy is usually not my thing.
Yeah,
it is one where I find I have the most leeway.
Yeah,
because with it, I think only superhero games have more.
Yeah,
because with magic and fantastical things, you can allow a lot more to go.
Yeah. That's a good point. We'll talk about other genres. Like horror, for example. The Murphy's Rules thread actually mentioned some of the incongruous things about, like, Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, surely there's nothing on that.
Call of Cthulhu isn't too bad, but unless you look into a couple things about the damage of various attacks. And the thing is that what they pointed out was the martial arts rule, which allows you to do double damage with martial art attacks if you roll under your martial arts percentage as well as the percentage of your attack. So a kick does 1d6 damage, which becomes 2d6 damage with martial arts,
which is about as much as a 9mm slug.
Which exactly, well, more than that actually. Because like a 45 or a 9mm does 1d10, so you're actually doing
potentially more damage than a bullet.
Yeah, well, on average, more damage than a bullet, and maximum damage, more damage. Better damage. Period. 2d6 is better than 1d10. And then of course, if you add in strength bonuses, then it can get up to be 3d6. Yeah, which is ridiculous. And then, of course, burst fire weapons do a ridiculous amount of damage too. Which actually, I wouldn't. They mention that as being ridiculous, but it's kind of like
if someone fires an MP5 at you, on
10 rounds. 10 rounds of MP5 is going to ruin your day.
Yeah, so your day's over.
Yeah, I would not. So. What do you do in those kind of situations? We encounter that in Cthulhu Invictus when unarmed attacks or melee attacks were more effective in killing a dark young, than they were than firearms would have been. Because many creatures in Call of Cthulhu are immune or highly resistant to impaling attacks.
Which are what bullets are.
Yeah, but they are not so resistant.
Like slashing.
Yeah, slashing to normal melee attacks. So you're like your character who had
the Centurion.
Yeah, the Centurion was really tough and really strong and had a good sword and blah blah blah. He was doing a lot of damage with his attacks. So what do you do with that? How do you deal with incongruous stuff in cosmic genres? Not like high fantasy and superheroes are kind of like their own thing because you're breaking the laws of physics on a regular basis. But in more toned down,
like horror,
horror or recon, or
Well, in the case, I would say, like in the case of bullets not being as effective, I can actually kind of see that because I love me some horror movies, and very rarely is a gun effective. I mean, it's usually when someone's shooting a gun at the monster or whatever, it's just to show really how badass this thing is and kill him. They don't actually usually end up killing the monster until they start, creating some kind of trap, which almost inevitably involves stabbing it, impaling it. So in some respects, in Call of Cthulhu, that would actually make sense.
Okay.
Guns, because I think guns are more for killing other people. It seems to be more kind of
Or hordes of things.
or hordes of things. Yeah, but or hordes of things. But in the case, if it's like a singular creature, in a horror movie, guns usually are not effective at all.
Right.
It's
Right.
Okay. Actually,
so you're firmly on
actually, even in some action, like if I use one of my favorite movies, Predator.
Yeah.
Do you remember? When everyone when Jesse Ventura gets killed, suddenly all the rest just line up and just Bill Duke's opening up with that minigun. Arnold has the M16. Everyone's just firing hundreds and hundreds of rounds. And what it does proves is we can wound it.
Yeah.
It doesn't die until he drops a tree log on him. So and Arnold didn't start actually really fighting this thing until he lost his gun. Then suddenly he's actually effectively fighting it.
Right.
So I think it's the case with like with horror movies and games. Guns are more to give you a false sense of security.
Okay.
I think genre-wise, if I'm using the genre here, you don't actually start fighting the monster until the gun's away, and you realize you have to you're going to have to go up close if you really want to fight this thing. So that's when you get like the sharpened lead pipe out or something.
Right. Or use one of the monster's traps against it.
Exactly.
So
or you create a trap to catch it or kill it.
So so you're firmly on the side of the genre, like taking
most of the time. I take the genre side.
So you do whatever you can to get it to your vision of the genre. So for me, I like getting. I am that way. It depends on what I'm trying to do. Every game I'm trying to do something different. And here's a new arcade. I wanted a sandbox superhero game.
Sure.
So I kind of wanted to see what you guys would do and what you would want to do. I also want to do more of like a challenge of the genre, like the idea of the superhero setting being a static setting where nothing changes, despite the existence of super science and shit like that. You guys were like, no, fuck it, we're gonna fabricate shit and make this into a transhuman utopia, woo,
Which I think the group as a whole loves doing stuff like that.
Yeah. And so we encourage that, and I think that's kind of a good idea. I think, it's a good idea if you want to do that, but for like my Nice Black Agent game, I definitely want to get more towards real world stuff, in a sense, like I really want to emphasize real world espionage tactics and techniques. And
so you're not looking for like Mission Impossible 2. You're more like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
I'd like to do that. Yeah, that's one of my goals for it. And Caleb's really good about that. I know people have commented on this, but he can be very crafty when he wants to be.
Yes, he can.
And I want to get. And so for me, the challenge is the game rules for Nice Black Agent so far have sort of encouraged genre conventions like techno speak and stuff like that. So your characters are very competent in what they do, but they're not superhuman. But for me, my challenge is how do I get that real world side of it, which is kind of a genre, as you mentioned, a genre thing, that George Smiley kind of like more. I don't want to do the James Bond Mission Impossible thing.
You want to do it like. By the way, if you have Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, either the old one or the remake, awesome movies.
Yeah. Also, because what I really find interesting is the idea of using, like, getting, informants, infiltrating stuff, going undercover. These are things we don't really do in role playing games very much. At least our group hasn't. And I don't think
we largely raid the armory and
right. It's more of the techno thriller Tom Clancy kind of thing, where you're badass guys and you use spy gadgets to get the intel, and then.
We're often like taking out the bad guys, not our job, but finding out all we can about him is.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like in a Tom Clancy thing, the way to get information is using high-tech gadgets and then raiding a place and capturing a guy and interrogating him with enhanced interrogation techniques, obviously.
Yeah.
Versus or killing everybody there, then grabbing documents and deciphering them, decrypting them. And that's fine. You like figuring out piecing the puzzles together.
It's the difference between I'm using Mission Impossible 1 and Mission Impossible 2. Mission Impossible 1 was all about breaking into places, being unseen, using encrypted communications. There were some action scenes, but it was mainly espionage.
Right.
Then John Woo directed the second one, and
which was action. Yeah.
Then we had some espionage in there, but.
Well,
but then we made Ethan Hunt a ninja.
Right. Well, the thing is, what I want to do though is more of the like you build up a cover identity, you go undercover and get them to trust you, or you find somebody who's there and you turn them into an asset. You either blackmail them or you get them to trust you, so they betray their friends. That's what real world spies do, and I think and then of course then they're like, oh shit, is somebody trying to kill me? Is one of my assets lying to me? And I know that we're not doing it. There are rules for that to emphasize that kind of thing in Night Spy Agent. We're doing a standard game right now because I just kind of I don't want to get
it's also this the first time we've ever played this.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of just want to introduce some of the common elements of going undercover and then getting assets. Getting people to portray their friends for your benefit, and that kind of thing. And so I want to introduce that in the game. And so for me, it's how do I get that in there? Because right now I'm fighting the game. The game rules are kind of neutral, but I'm fighting the genre because everybody's thinking Mission Impossible 2 and James Bond, the Daniel Craig stuff. Not Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And so that's the thing. So
I will actually say I think we got a little more into it in our heads when we realized everyone who knows about the game, I'm not going to be spoiling anything, but our first vampire encounter, I think we were by the end we were like, holy fuck, how can he not be dead? And the whole group was like this, no, he has to be dead now. So I think that helped kind of all right, we're not going to be able to do this through force of arms.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be.
We've only done one session of it.
We've only done one session of it. So
I think we will get into that when because I think you have emphasized, you're not going to be able to shoot your way out of this.
Yeah. So that's the first step, and by making using a genre element, horror element, vampires, because in game rules, that's the thing. Is another thing is if you make the one thing role playing games always have to do is limit their exposure to important antagonists to the players, because anytime players make even the briefest contact with an antagonist that they really want to die.
Games I have run, especially with this group, I've seen that happen so many times.
There's the evil emperor overhead. He's walking around on a parade. You're in the crowd below. I take out my sniper rifle, shoot him in the head. I take out my
son of a bitch.
Yeah, natural 20. I spent all my moxie on it. Fuck you. He's dead. Game over. Players love short circuiting.
Take that, Menjapa.
Yeah. They love taking shortcuts like that, and so that's the thing that all games kind of have to do, or most role playing games, which is definitely not a genre convention of any genre. You always any kind of adventure or action thing, or name it, fantasy, horror, sci-fi, whatever. You always want the protagonist and antagonist talking to each other. You always want them interacting with each other.
It's
because that's drama.
Like the scene from Heat when De Niro and Pacino are just in that coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly. You would never have that in a role playing game.
No,
because they'd be like, "I shoot the other guy." Why? There was no way you wouldn't. It would take a really mature players, amazing players, to suppress the killing instinct.
Or Hans Gruber and John McClane.
Yeah, exactly.
Good goddamn.
Well,
that did go into a firefight. But.
That did go, and that was the whole point. The player didn't know if he was he was a bad guy or not. So, but once the players know they're a bad guy, those bad guys just fucking melt away. They just die. It's grandparents when you're freshmen in college. For some reason, they always seem to pass away when you're a freshman. Or because you notice that my homework's not due because I had to go to my grandmother's funeral. Maybe that was just something.
No, I've heard it didn't happen to me, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. A lot of people, their grandparents seem to just they're dead. I can't do my homework. Maybe that's just a personal thing that I've known. Maybe I'm just crazy, but
clearly,
clearly. So. That's in one way the games always have to take precedence over the actual genre because it's very hard to pull that off in in games otherwise, because players are just like, they're practical. Like, I mean, we talk about player logic a lot, and like, players are so crazy. Why do they do that?
Because usually the crazy thing's the practical thing to do.
But they're fucking, they know what they want, and they will do whatever they want they will do whatever they have to get it. Fuck everything else, like, we have to kill a bad guy, we'll kill that bad guy. We'll set that city on fire, and
like, well, we'll break into Charlie Chaplin's party.
Oh God. Yeah, they're fucking, they're absolutely obsessed.
And if you look, and when you actually give them consequences for it in game, sometimes you can just see them like, why is this happening?
It's like a dog who's like, dog shit all over the carpet, tore up all the couch and everything else. You come home 8 hours later and you're angry at the dog, and the dog's like, what? I don't even understand yeah. Like, they don't even remember. It's just, there's no connection between the two, as far as they're concerned. So, and the game sort of teaches them that way, because it's just about the mechanics, getting what you want, and it is a challenge. So, I don't know. What have you had kind of challenges, things you want to do?
As I've said, like, I can't think of the number of times. Like, I always, because I think it's cool scenes, like having the PCs meet the villain.
Yeah,
and it almost always just
ends up in a fight.
Ends up in a fight.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, to avoid derailing the game, if I don't just quit it, I have to have the villain either do a GM fiat of just escaping, or I have to really emphasize, you can't kill him right now. He's like, or the case of D&D, like, he's just going to slaughter you.
Yeah.
Or he's got like, well, I try like some. He's got 2 bodyguards. No, they just try to kill them at 4. No, it's like 12 bodyguards with him, all with tack vests, body armor, and M6. Yeah. And even then, finally, I have to kind of like find a meeting where the players would actually start to think, no, that might be kind of a challenge.
But then it goes the other way around. Then it's like, why wouldn't the villain just kill the players if he realizes they're enemies? If he's that powerful, why isn't he just kind of like, boop, zap him with his legion?
Or then you can always break out like, well, he's so arrogant in his power.
Well, but that's kind of
that's kind of much. But sometimes I've had to do that once or twice just because, like, Jesus fucking Christ, okay, no, put your guns and swords and missiles away.
Yeah. So it's a challenge one way or the other to try and get,
like, one that stands out in my mind, my TMNT2 Judgment Day GURPS game.
Yeah,
I tried to actually have the T800 show up at one point earlier in the game, and everyone, like, it's been so long, I can't remember if I actually did that and realized no, they're heavily armed right now. They're going to try to take him out.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember if I actually had it happen or just stop, but it was the same reason.
Yeah.
Is like, no, they'd open fire the moment they saw him.
Yeah. No, and we would. So, I mean, these are just a couple elements or examples of how games, don't always translate into genre or reality very well. And so it's you have to kind of adapt your stuff to try and get that same thing. And that process of adaptation is very kind of finicky and nuanced and based on individual groups. I mean, with our players, what I really want to do is just basically, for Night's Black Age, just make it very convenient and very attractive to just like try and recruit assets to tell you secrets or go undercover. Because otherwise, I mean, I've already established the first point, vampires are really fucking hard to kill. So, and you don't know who's a vampire and who isn't because they can walk around in daylight. You know that. So you don't know what they're weak against.
And we fought one. Never mind if like 2 or 3 show up.
Right, exactly. So you don't know what they can do, and you don't know what their weaknesses. You don't know anything other than they drink blood. They can, and they're really hard to kill. So that's a problem. And so your characters. So you'll hopefully be motivated to do that in one way. But other than that, I can give you handouts and access to documents like, hey, these are useful techniques in real world stuff, and try and give you hints in the game because Gumshoe's really good about that.
Yeah, I kind of think in that case it might be good for you, just as advice to kind of direct us in that direction for a couple of scenes. And then I think the more we play the game and we've done that, like, oh, this is kind of what we're supposed to do in this game. But if we get a little more used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the GM does kind of have to push you along, but depending on the group, you only have to do it once or twice in the beginning, and then players stay on the path.
Yeah.
Other times you have to take them get a leash on them and drag them along with you. I'm like, no, don't look at the targets over there. No, put your gun down.
So that's my challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, for you, you're doing your Pathfinder. We'll talk about this more in the anecdote section. And for you in the Pathfinder campaign, I mean, what are you trying to get across? Is it just a sandbox campaign? Just like, what do you guys want to do?
Well, it's...
I don't know. You tell me.
I'm basically breaking it. I'm breaking it up into what 4th Ed does. Heroic, Paragon, and Epic.
Yeah.
And presenting you a series of challenges and things to overcome, all based around this city.
Yeah.
And so heroic stuff, it's going to be dealing with stuff inside the city, like internal threats. Paragon will be, and then now you got some very serious external threats that you're going to have to figure out how to help or hinder. And then Epic, it's going to be outside, but then like way the fuck outside, like other realm type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's essentially going. My goal, what I'm going for, is like a fantasy where you have your guys starting just doing errands for people, and you end up basically doing errands for the movers and shakers,
right? And
then at the end, you are the movers and shakers.
Okay,
basically, it's going on that journey.
So that's what your goal is, trying to do that kind of rags to riches GTA kind of thing.
Yeah.
So. All right. I mean, that sounds fair. I mean, and it's very much a game-focused world where people are aware of generally what kind of things characters can do and can't do. Their magic and spells and class abilities and racial abilities and that kind of thing. So you don't really have, specific hurdles.
I've got some specific stuff, but I'm actually I'm taking a cue from you, like what you did, and just I'm going to have like I'm going to throw some hurdles in front of you, but then present a half a dozen different ways you could go about it.
Yeah.
If you want to, you could have there's you could do this. You could talk to this group. There's also 3 or 4 other groups that could help you do the same thing.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'm leaving it. I want to leave it to as
open-ended sandbox.
Open-ended sandbox.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that turns out.
Indeed.
So I think that kind of summarizes some thoughts on Murphy's rules and the disconnect between reality.
I think you're always going to find stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, and that's part of the joy of gaming.
Oh yeah,
disconnects.
It's that's why I've been doing it for close to over 27 years now.
Right. So if you have any questions about this, post them on our forums, Facebook group. I have been for those of you who've emailed me, I try to email you back as soon as I can. Sometimes I forget. I'm sorry, I get a lot of email.
He does. It's crazy.
Yes, it's cray.
It's cray. Yeah.
So
wow, we both went there.
Well, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So just hang in there, but if it's on a forum or message board, and the other RPPR fans can see it, especially with advice. We did get a letter that I will try and read in the anecdote section, but that's just a heads up for all you guys. So keep on emailing us. I'm sorry in advance.
We are reading. We are reading. We are
reading. We are listening. So, anyways, next up, Tom has a letter.
I do,
and then we have shout outs, and then we have anecdotes.
So stay tuned. Yeah. I positively adore cinematic death and destruction. I have watched people be shot, stabbed, beheaded, dismembered, eviscerated, envenomed, and devoured since I could watch movies and comprehend what was going on. I have adored such movies for decades. And when that option became available in video game form, I was sucked right in. It started with The Seventh Guest, went on with Doom, Splatterhouse, and later The 11th Hour. Silent Hill for the original PlayStation really allowed me to appreciate video game horror and gore. I am the same way with destruction. I love disaster movies as well as giant monster movies. Watching big cities and famous landmarks crumble under a monster's foot or under a 10-point infinity super earthquake sends a thrill through me that is better than any drug. All this you know. What you might not know is that I also get a thrill out of the exact opposite of that. There are some video games that thrill me that involve living and creating. And the one that started it all was the SimCity game for the Super NES in 1991. I was still addled with slasher movies and violent games, and along comes this gem of a game that altered my perceptions. Granted, the first month of playing the game, I was unleashing cinematic destruction on all the pre-made cities, which, if I remember correctly, included Detroit, Tokyo, Bern, Rio de Janeiro, Boston, San Francisco, and after those were completed, Las Vegas and then Freedom, the land map with no water. I wrecked those cities with a passion that had no equal. And then an amazing thing happened. I decided to give building cities a try. It was amazing. I loved the process of building them as much as wrecking them. I spent years playing that game, building dozens and dozens of cities. Incidentally, I never got to a city that had the level of Megalopolis with 500,000 people. Even using map number 62, which has the most space. Still haven't done it. Then, of course, came the other games. I loved SimCity 2000 with the funny newspaper articles in-game and the expanded transportation system. SimCity 3000 came later, and it was even better. Ploppable real-world landmarks and expanded rewards made me very, very happy. SimCity 4 was even better. It's like with this buildings that seemed to build themselves each time. It seemed that each game was an improvement on the last. Then SimCity Societies came along. What a piece of shit. It was like baby's first SimCity with all the strategy and fun taken out of it. It was such a huge disappointment. It nearly turned me off to the whole franchise. But then I went back to the old Super NES version, and I found the magic was still alive. What is the purpose of this letter? Simple. The newest SimCity game is out March 5th, 3 days from the writing of this letter. I will get to see if they have overcome the unfortunate step backward that Societies was, or if it is another huge pile of shit. Either way, it will be another celebration of all things not violent and destructive that makes me happy. Proof that I can take pleasure from a pristine, custom-built city the same way I can with a blasted Ingmar Bergman hellscape of destruction. Happy SimCity Day, everyone.
And we're back. That's a good letter there, Tom.
Thank you.
Want to talk about those? I mean, they're not totally creative and just...
No,
there's giant monsters.
Well, it's Bowser in this one, and it's Bowser on 2 wheels, I've noticed. That was kind of weird. No, fun fact, when you're actually doing the Boston scenario, which is a nuclear meltdown, I've discovered you can actually, as soon as the game starts, hold the L button, which pauses the game, bulldoze all 3 nuclear power plants in the city, let the button go, and then rebuild them. The nuclear meltdown never happens. Take that.
Take that, Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
All right, very good. So,
And by the way, I'd also say, if anyone actually got to a Megalopolis level, and, on that game... Please let me know how you did it. I've still not, even on map, like I said, map number 62, which has the least water of any of them, I still cannot freaking do it.
I gotcha.
Seriously. If you have tips, tell me.
Okay. I'm sure you haven't looked it up on GameFAQs or something like that, but...
No. Well, I have, but it's... I think I want someone who's actually really done it.
Okay, fair enough. So, listeners, you have a challenge out there. Next up, we have shout-outs.
Indeed.
So, first, I'll go up first. One which should be no surprise to people if you've been listening to the Actual Play podcast, The Quiet Year, which is a map-making game that I sponsor as our first crowdfunded game. We've had it on the site, on the AP site, although I've sponsored several other Kickstarters. This one was on Indiegogo because the guy's Canadian.
Yeah.
And it's basically you and up to 3 other people, 4 players total, sit down and create a map of this post-apocalyptic community. Then you describe what happens to it over the course of a year. There's a actual play of it on the podcast. You can listen to someone likes, and there's a PDF of the map we made that you can download, take a look, and see what it looks like at the end. And it's just a really fun game. And Tom, Aaron, and Drew and I will have to play it sometime, or just maybe Tom, Aaron, and I, because you guys need to play it too.
I can bring Dan.
Yeah, we could bring Dan, and
Fuzzy Dan might be coming back.
Yes. So those of you who are big fans of the Dark Spiral aura,
how can you not be?
I can maybe not be.
Ross, you just don't understand.
I don't understand. I don't want to understand. It is evil and wrong. So, anyways, that's a great game.
Yeah.
So check it out. And it's very creative. And anyway, Tom, yeah.
Yep, I got one. First, my love of older bad movies. I watched a true Die Hard clone released in the 90s called Cracker Jack, starring Thomas Ian Griffith, otherwise known as the guy that owned the toxic waste dumping company from the Karate Kid 3.
I like that, Johnny.
I like it a lot. Yeah, I'm going to use that. That guy.
Yeah, I love the riptides for that. It's like, I wish I was enthusiastic about anything, as that guy's enthusiastic about evil.
I know. And I mean, I know a lot of people...
So he's the hero in this one.
He's the hero in this one.
And they're bad guys. They're terrorists.
They're bad. Like Christopher Plummer's the head terrorist.
I don't even know who that is. The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, but I mean, it is such a Die Hard clone. I mean, right down to the
barefoot broken glass?
No. Oh, there's all kinds of... No, they have a scene of all kinds of broken glass. They make they make a point to show that.
Yeah.
But that he doesn't walk on it, but it shows that the glass doesn't affect him. So he's much better than John McClane.
God damn.
And they have the bad guy whose name we know. Then we have his named henchman who also has blonde hair, like Alexander Godunov from Die Hard,
of course.
And they're trapped in they're trapped in an enclosed place, and they're there, and the terrorists are actually thieves. Yeah. It is such a Die Hard clone.
Nice.
And is
it on DVD? Is it?
It's on DVD.
Yeah.
But just wow.
You sound a little regretful. It's like I'm telling you this. I'm not sure.
No, I want people to see this since now they can watch it and not pay money. Most likely.
Okay.
I'm sure there are ways to do this.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a huge pirate demand for Cracker Jack. I'm sure Pirate Bay's all over that, Tom. I'm sure they've got like 10,000 people seating it. Oh, Cracker Jack for you, for everyone. So
you don't know.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
When you assume, you make an ass of you and me, Ross.
Yes, Tom.
Boom.
Yes. Next up, I have been on an Android. I'm sorry. I don't want to. I have nothing against iOS. I'm just cheap. So
he is.
My phone is a Droid, and I actually. So I found out about this new software called, well, it's not new, but it's new to me, called Cam Scanner, and it's really badass. And it's free if you have a .edu email address, or $5 if you don't. And there's a free version, but it adds a watermark to it. And what it does is you take a picture of a document with your phone. You just point it down and take just lay it flat, and then it figures out where the edges of that document are, and then flattens it out and does some other things and makes it into a PDF you can then save on your phone or email to yourself or email to friends, which is fucking amazing, because what I'm going to do is make PDFs of all the character sheets for all our games from now on.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be fucking amazing, and especially in games like Better Angels, where character sheets change every session. We can go back, oh, here it is, session 1, here's what you had, and then I'll have it, of course, as PDFs for you guys. When we do a campaign, I'll upload the character sheets so you can take a look at what the players are like. Player characters
very
are
nice.
Like. So I've already used it for the Quiet Year, the map I use Cam Scanner for that, and it's just very fast, very convenient, and holy shit, that's a really good idea, getting documents just by taking pictures with your phone. That's useful. Anyways, so that's my. What am I? So nice. You had another one.
I got another one.
Another bit of classic cinema from the 90s.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's we watched it on a Riff Tracks. Thank Christ. I can't imagine watching this thing without Riff Tracks.
I can.
I don't know. Does anyone remember the 90s?
Yeah.
You remember Vanilla Ice?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Do you remember he had a movie of his own called Cool as Ice?
Yeah.
Which was, it was a movie that, it wasn't as good as TMNT Secret of the Ooze, where he played himself.
Well, of course not.
No.
Yeah.
Would go with, Ninja Rap.
Yeah.
But it's him. I can't even really remember much of the plot.
It's a love story, Tom.
Of course, it's a love story.
Rebel without a cause, only with Vanilla Ice.
And he's they're on motorcycles.
Of course, he's got tripping motorcycle,
and he pretends to be this old couple's nephew, I think. And he falls in love with this sweet girl whose father is very protective of her and doesn't like him because he's bad and a bad influence. And there are also mobsters.
Yeah. No, they're corrupt police officers.
Well, corrupt police officers.
Because the girl's father testified against them and is now in federal witness protection.
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
Yeah.
But then he goes on TV, which is how they find out about it.
Apparently, and Vanilla Ice is just this, I just go where the wind takes me. I don't have a job. But he has different clothes in every single scene he's in.
No, it's actually, he only has the one thing. It's so it's so chaotic. It's like a basilisk hack for your mind. So you can't
Obviously,
perceive it the same way twice. In every scene, it appears different, simply because your brain lacks the capability to process it.
And this thing, it has all the old early '90s things. The douchebag,
the neon clothing.
The douchebag boyfriend that the girl's obviously going to dump.
To be fair, that's not '90s exclusive. That was pretty.
No, I'm not
80s.
saying, but it's got all those. It's got all the things you can imagine.
It has all the things. And it's Riff Tracks. So
thank God for that. And it's him. It's basically Vanilla Ice. Just looking bored.
Really, all you need to know to get a sense of what this movie is like is to just type in Google Cool as Ice movie and go to Google image search and see what the poster looks like.
That
really kind of summarizes. That's actually a really good poster because it accurately tells you what this movie
what you are about to watch,
what you are about to see. And I'm not going to describe it to you. I'm not even going to give you a preview.
I will just say Vanilla Ice just looks like, yeah, I'm in a movie. Hey,
he's like, I'm Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sing. I'm gonna go sing because music at this place sucks. I'm gonna go sing up here and show you what music is.
Yeah.
Hey, like I think you're cool on your own.
Yeah.
You know, it's like your old man's just holding you back.
Yeah. That's a great Vanilla Ice impression, Tom. You should shave your head and go on the road. Shave one of your eyebrows.
And, rip off other people's songs.
Oh, man. Harsh. Just out of nowhere.
Yeah. I loved Ice Ice Baby when it was Under Pressure.
Oh, man.
Uh-huh.
So critical.
I'm so crit.
You are. Next up, going back on the Android thing, I bought a tablet. I bought a Nexus 7.
You did?
Thank you for confirming that, Tom.
I have to.
I wasn't sure that people would believe me that I bought a thing.
You are a monster, Ross.
But I did. I bought the thing, and I've been using it to read PDFs at the game. So I got like the Eclipse Phase books and the Knights Black Agents and Better Angels and that kind of thing. It's been very useful. And it's a good tablet, and it's got, I've been playing, and I've been playing games on it. I'm going to be straight up. Not like all the time, but just, useful distractions. So yeah, it's a good tablet. I would not, I'm sure the iPads are great, but iPads cost a lot more money.
They do.
And
yes.
I basically what I found out is there are USB cables that let you plug into a Nexus 7, and then you can connect another USB device to it. So I found out I can actually, for my video camera, I can plug that into, then I can download video clips from my camera, then play them on the tablet. So I can, like in the field when I'm shooting this web series, my plan is to actually review the footage on my tablet so I don't have to go back, or lug my laptop around and make sure I got the good shots and,
sure.
that kind of thing. So that's a thing. That's the thing, yeah.
I got another one. Back to Rift Tracks again.
Yeah.
Currently, the guys doing Rift Tracks are doing a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
They're trying to raise, I think it was like $50,000 so they could get...
They've already made that.
I know, well, that's what the goal was, $50,000 to get the license to do a live...
Well, no, they don't know how much it's going to cost. They're basically
their goal...
Well, their minimum goal, yeah, they've
50.
already made that, so that doesn't
and it's to do to get so they could do a live Rift Tracks on Twilight.
Right.
They're up to 200,000 or more.
Yeah. So basically, the idea is there's not a set amount. They haven't talked to the studio that has Twilight right now, but what they're going to do is they're going to take all the money they raise and just dump it in front of them and say, please let us do Rift Tracks of that. And if that doesn't work, they have a whole list of Rift Tracksable movies that they will do, and they'll just go down the line until they find one that they can afford. So they're just going to take all the money they get, and they'll get the license to some movie and do that,
and it will be worthy.
Yeah. So
I'm going to donate to this one.
Yeah, because you get a lot of shorts too. I kind of want to do it because they have like one of the rewards is like a Rift Tracks of a 1902 silent film, and it's the Man to the Moon. Like I
remember. Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah, everyone's seen it because it's the one where the rocket shoots into the moon, and
it's the guy's
has a
face
and it
hits
goes
the
into his
eye.
Yeah, and he's kind of mildly perturbed about that, and I just want to see that. That sounds pretty awesome. So yeah. That's a worthy Rift Tracks.
Yeah.
Next, I'm just going to mention all the games I've tried out on my Nexus 7. One is Army of Darkness Defense, which is a kind of a tower defense thing. It's a side-scrolling game where it's Army of Darkness. It's licensed, so you get all the sound clips and stuff like that. But basically, you go through waves of Deadites that are trying to get the Necronomicon. And then you're Ash, and you can move left and right, and you automatically fight the Deadites. You also have special abilities, like your shotgun, or you can call down arrows. You get 2 abilities out of like 6 that you can eventually unlock. And you can level those up. And the thing is, you can't fight off all the Deadites by yourself. So the blacksmith's building up points. He gets and then you spend those points to get units. So like he's getting like 1 unit, 1 point per second, and then at 5 points you can get a peasant, or at 10 points you can get a swordman, or at 30 you get an armored guard, and you get better units, and then or you can upgrade the smithy itself, and then it'll pump out points faster. And so that's the basic game, and it's very addictive, very just fun to get into, play for a wave or two, and then quit. So it's a good little fun, and it's free.
Sure.
So
Even better.
Yeah, and it's on iOS too, so it's a free game. It's one of those things where you can buy like currency in the game to advance your. If you don't want to like the thing is, if you fail a wave, you just have to do that wave over again. You get a little money, so you just a lot of the time you just have to upgrade your shit, your castle and your soldiers or whatever, until you can beat the wave. And so if you want to shortcut that, you can spend money on it. So, but otherwise, It's free. Anyways, 2 other games: Knights of Pen and Paper. I think this has been mentioned before. I didn't see it on our site though, listed as a formal link. And basically, it's a game where it's a role playing game where you're going around fighting monsters, doing quests, that kind of thing, leveling up your guys. But you're also playing a role-playing game. It's a game within a game.
Nice.
So, like, when you choose, like, you don't get a fighter. You get your little brother as a fighter, or the jock as a fighter, or the pizza guy as a fighter, or the your grandmother as a fighter, or, so there's, like, 10 or 12 different player types and 6 or 8 different character classes. And when you start, you have to unlock some of them. And you kind of just go around doing quests, and then eventually you fight, more and more monsters and reality. And you can get, like, if you get pizza, you get a bonus to critical hits for 20 minutes or something like that.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, obviously. So it's $2 for the base game. You can spend money to get more gold in the game, or you can just kill monsters and get gold to level up your shit. So that's really fun. And then the last game is Call of Cthulhu: The Wasted Land, which is now for everything, like PC, Droid, Mac, iOS, and it's a turn-based strategy game where you're fighting the Cthulhu mythos in World War I, the trenches of World War I. So you have British soldiers and an American scholar fighting Nazi German, or not Nazi, zombie
Imperial Germans.
Yeah, Imperial Germans and zombie Imperial Germans and cultist Imperial Germans.
Okay.
So the Android port, I'm sorry to say, is kind of wonky. Like, the controls aren't super good, which kind of sucks. So I might just buy it again for PC because it's like $5.
Sure.
So
and I got one more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually on the Escapist website.
Yeah.
One of their videos.
Yeah.
It's actually called Real Physics, like REEL Physics.
Yeah.
And it's these two. It's essentially these series of videos. I think there's about 10 or 11 of them right now, where these two physics experts go over scenes from movies to actually see if these scenes could actually happen in
talking
reality.
about the difference between genre and reality. I gotcha.
And like they did, like, the first one they did was the tank drop from the A-Team.
Yeah.
And it's one of the surprisingly
the remake, the recent one.
Yeah, like they're using it. First they used the tank cannon to steer them while they're free falling. And the thing is, what surprised me is they said no, all that shit is totally within the realm of physics.
Yeah.
They also did, like, the Avengers helicarrier. Could those engines of that size really lift an aircraft carrier? Or
yeah. And
a lot of them are. I mean, and these guys are really like expert physics guys.
Yeah.
So they really test all of them, and the ones that, and I love it when they see, like, the ones that no, this could never ever happen. I'm more impressed by the ones they actually find out are possible.
I gotcha.
So it's a really good series, of videos on the Escapist website. You should really give it a watch.
Okay. 2 more app things. What kind of? One is, the app is I've started jogging. I found, and there's going to be a huge surprise for you guys. The reason I've been motivated to start jogging is this, there's a running app that, like, tells you how to, like, it's a 5K to couch kind of thing. Couch to 5K, I'm sorry. A training program, but it's called Zombie Run. Calm down, Tom. I know this is a shock surprise, but I like zombies. I'm interested in zombies. And so what it does is you put in you put it on your smartphone. The smartphone tracks how far you're moving, either through GPS or the accelerometer. And you'll hear a voice, all right, we're going to start running. We're in this zombie town. You're going to be our runner. You're going to go get supplies. We got to train first. And so I want you to walk. Okay, now run. Now walk. Now run. You go back and forth, and they start building you up. And what they do that's very clever is aside from that, so they're building you up for that, and they also like play music in between. So it's been very good. It's like, I can do this. I know what to do, and so that's very cool. And then the other thing is, aside from music, I've been listening to podcasts now. I found a good app called Beyond Podcast or Beyond Pod, and normally I work at home most of the time, so I don't listen. I listen to music while I'm writing, not podcasts, because that would confuse me. But now that I'm jogging now and that kind of thing, I've been listening to podcasts more. I've been listening to How Did This Get Made? I don't know if we mentioned this podcast. It's a movie. It's a podcast about movies and talking about how did this bad movie get made.
Oh, yeah.
And they've done a couple episodes that you should listen to. They've even done one that you really need to listen to, Tom.
Which is?
The one about Punisher Warzone.
Yes, I must.
No, Tom, I'm not done. Because they have the director of the movie explain how did this get made. She explains how this got made. And as another special guest, Patton Oswalt.
Nice.
They talk about the movie and what went wrong with it. And the main hosts are...
Well, before I leave today, you will be giving me that link.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm not waiting.
So, how did this get made? I've only listened to a couple episodes so far. That, The Odd Life of Timothy Green, which had Tim Heidecker guest starring in. Then one on the Wild Wild West, which was pretty interesting. Kevin Smith was in that one,
nice.
Talking about that. And then Anaconda. They're talking. I've been listening to that in bits and pieces. So that's a good podcast. And then Beyond Pod and Zombie Run. So yeah. Those are my old.
Anaconda.
Yeah,
it's like because it's perfectly proven that anacondas can travel at 90 miles per hour.
I think is it Anaconda or Anaconda 2? There's one Anaconda movie that like there's one thing that's totally fucked up. It's not even related to anacondas.
What?
They're going up the river. They're in a boat and they're going up the river. They're going upstream, upriver, right? Mm-hmm. There's a fucking waterfall.
That's the second one.
Yeah, okay, that's the second one. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Anacondas 2, The Blood Orchid.
Okay, yeah.
David and I, we went to watch that at the Palace, and it was beautiful because it was like 7 of us all there to see a bad movie.
Yeah. But like...
More popcorn was thrown at the screen.
If you don't catch it, think about the water's going upstream, and
there's a waterfall.
There's a waterfall.
Upstream.
Think about that for a second. That's some M.C. Escher bullshit right there. That's just damn,
Ross.
That shit is
okay.
cray. All right,
make your sand check. You'll make it.
I think I failed it right there.
Yeah, you did.
So those are our shout outs. We're going on the anecdote section. Well, actually, first off, let's do the listener letter since I forgot. This was actually from what should have been from last episode. And I totally forgot. And I'm sorry, Scott from Canada, because you have a .ca email address.
International listeners.
Yes, thank you. You guys are awesome listening to us in Midwestern Americas, living in flyover country, America. Just want to throw that in there. Hi guys. Hey guys. I'm a longtime listener of the show and a recent first-time GM. Listening to the actual play feed has been enjoyable as well as educational, and I wanted to thank you for all the effort you put in the show.
You're welcome.
You're quite welcome, dude. I did have a question if you have a sec. It doesn't have to be for the podcast, but I was genuinely curious about it for a while. What are your thoughts on using skill rolls that are made without informing the player whether the skill roll succeeded or failed? For example, asking the players to make a listen check, call Cthulhu with a hidden penalty or bonus, giving them a description of what they hear, innocuous or malicious, without their knowledge of whether they succeeded or not. Or alternately, asking players what their listen skill is, making the roll in secret, and telling the player what they hear without indicating success or failure. I love the skill system in role-playing games, but find it a little unsatisfying when a player says, I made my spot hidden check. Tell me what I see. Can you describe a situation where this works and where this doesn't? How important is it for the player to explicitly know that their role was a success? Thanks, and keep up the great work. And final question. Awesome HD camera. What make and model did you get? More videos, please. Good luck with raillery.
Yes, I have an answer for that already.
Okay.
In fact, I'm going to use a system in a game that I have long said doesn't work.
Yeah.
It was actually an After the Bomb game from Palladium.
Yeah.
And in the case, the skill that was involved was demolitions. Like the play, I was running it.
Yeah.
And the players were essentially, they were breaking into this Empire of Humanity, slave camp.
Yeah.
And to do the distraction, to set the whole thing off, they had to have a guy sneak in to set explosives on this fuel dump.
Yeah.
To blow that and start the distraction. So but essentially I told him to make the roll. I said, now it's going to be. And he says, go ahead and make a roll. And I said, and it's going to have a penalty. Like, I'm not going to tell you what the penalty is. And he does it, but he makes the roll to set them, but then he has to leave, and he doesn't know. I mean, because when he hits that detonator, he doesn't know if he succeeded or not.
Yeah. And
if they don't blow up, the whole raid can't go on until they actually make it explode.
Right.
So that was a moment when they got a little tense. Like, okay, like everything's all set. Like, all right, push the detonator, and he's like. He did make it, but they were like all of them were just kind of leaning in a little closer. I think like, you can totally do that.
I think in cases where it actually matters, like when the character doesn't get feedback, the demolitions, also sense motive checks, obviously, perceptive checks, really, or things with a delay, and I think it shouldn't be used all the time because it would slow down the game.
I think when it's
dramatically appropriate. When it's dramatically appropriate, I think it's totally fine to do that. It's having a light touch, having the right touch, and don't tell the players, like, just say, or you can tell the player, don't make it the same thing all the time. Like, it's another hidden check, blah, 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 blah. But you're like, all right, what's your demolition? Sometimes, so the next time your guy made a demolition check, just say, what's your demolition skill? And then roll for him and not tell him the results. That way he's still uncertain. He's like, even more uncertain about it. So I think varying the procedure and only doing it at dramatic.
If I may use another Palladium example.
Yeah.
It was actually it was a Heroes game. I was not running. I was playing.
Yeah.
And the GM did something amazing. I thought.
Yeah.
We were trying to. It was a Heroes Unlimited.
Yeah.
We were trying to. We were trying to get close. To get close to this guy. I forget the actual details, but one of the characters had the power shape change.
Yeah.
So he just used it to disguise himself, and go back to. We know that this criminal we're looking for always eats at this time at this restaurant, and he always orders the same thing. So the GM essentially did that. He said, okay, make a cooking check, because he had the cooking skill, but then the GM made it. So you don't know if you've actually made it correctly for this guy, and if you don't, and he realizes it's not made the way he wants, something's up. It's a little mundane skill like cooking.
Yeah,
you could do that with if it's dramatically appropriate.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. So
a good GM and a good player.
I think in general it should be done. Yeah, no. I think in general though it should be done more when the player character is isolated. Mm-hmm. Like if everyone's all together and you're having people make these kind of checks when they're all together is kind of annoying.
Like Age, like going undercover.
Right.
Often like the guy that's undercover, his backup can't burst into the room if things go south.
Right. But if everybody's watching, negotiating with this guy, just tell them if they make their sense motive check or not. If it's one player talking to the old guy, maybe not. I don't know. I think it's definitely a valid technique. You hit upon it, and I don't see anything wrong with it.
Not at all. None.
So, and sometimes you want to do it not to create tension, but to give players an out. Like you get in Call of Cthulhu, you want to make sure they get rolls. So, what's your spot hidden? And it's 50%. You roll 98. Yeah, you find the book. All right, here's your clue. You rolled well because you just want to move the game along. You want to make sure they get the right clues that they can have a chance of interpreting. So, the other question, I have a Canon XA10 HD camera. So it is, HD. It's pretty baller.
It is. We can totally.
I'll put a link on it too.
We can totally do night vision.
We can do, as you know from the RPPR Dread. So, and when we do the web series, you'll take a look at that. So that's our listener letter. Now let's talk about the anecdotes.
All right. As we said, there are currently 3 campaigns
that have just started. We've literally only done one session of each one at this point.
So let's start. We already know what Ross's is.
It's called Tribes of Tokyo. It's a Knights Black Agents campaign. It's vampires in Tokyo. Players are all work for a private security company that then shit went wrong and
they go south.
Yeah,
South Pacific.
So what I like, just to give you a sense though, the players. When things go south immediately, the first player, David's with one NPC, and the NPC is going to interview an informant by himself. David's there to make sure if the informant tries to run away, he's supposed to catch her. Because the NPC is like, well, she's a junkie and she might run away,
and she's paranoid.
Yeah, she's paranoid. So try and catch her. So David's away from the NPC, and you're silent for a little too long. David goes and check. The NPC he was with, the NPC's been jumped by a vampire. Blood. Although he doesn't know he's a vampire, but he does know his throat's been ripped out. The vampires sucked his blood. Blah blah blah. So shit's gone bad. So the players, everyone converges on the spot and everyone's chasing him. Aaron's, of course, playing the otaku hacker techie type. the vampires demonstrating superhuman abilities already, and spider climbing and shit like that, and people are like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on? The vampire starts climbing up the side of a building, and everyone else is like, get in the cars, we'll follow him. We put it, they get a tracking device on him. Mm-hmm. Caleb gets a tracking device on him.
Nice job, Caleb.
Yeah, because he's really fucking clever when it comes to shit like that. And what I love though is that Aaron's like, I'm going to chase after a vampire. You're on foot. Yeah, I'll go to the fire escape on the other side of the building and run up on him. Like, okay, all right, make your athletics check. I make it. Okay, you're up on the roof. You don't see any. Make a sense trouble check. I didn't make that. Okay, I guess he's right behind you. And so the vampire's like, at this point, Aaron went off by the vampire, who he saw could climb walls and was superhumanly strong. And I'm just like, wow, holy shit, Aaron. Good job, I guess.
Are you going to try to arrest the Shoggoth in another?
I guess. So Aaron survived because I wasn't going to kill him right off the bat. And the guy and the vampire just wanted to get away. Just wanted to know who was going on, wanted to get out of, didn't want to make a scene. So Aaron lived, but I was like, holy shit. So that's the anecdote from that. That's just a little sample of that. And the second campaign is Caleb's campaign. We'll talk about that after. We'll talk about your campaign next.
Okay, mine is I'm running Pathfinder. I think the working title is Secrets of Cepheus.
Yeah.
Which is the city that it's primarily taking place in. It's essentially it's a city kind of like away from the borders of the main empire.
Yeah.
And I'm toying with the idea of having, like Ross has said, hey, if you want to make it in the old world of the new world,
yeah,
go ahead and do that. I'm thinking I might do that. And it's essentially a city.
Obviously, this takes place before the campaign ends of the New World.
But it's a city. The city of Cepheus is a city that welcomes creatures. Any creature that wants to become a citizen.
Yeah.
So it's like 2% of the population are the standard races.
Yeah.
All the rest are anything else you can imagine. All having lived like you can live here and be safe from adventurers trying to kill you. But you have to obey the laws of the city, and so it works for the most part. But yeah, Aaron's playing a Warforged in this, a Warforged gunslinger.
Yeah,
with
goes Pathfinder,
cool. Pathfinder, cool. And so not to give away anything, what happens until it's real, you actually hear the episode. But needless to say, the players have found plot and are following plot.
Yeah,
and
a guy at a bar hired us to do a thing.
Yes, classic.
Yeah.
But, of course, this person is shady, and we don't know, obviously not on the up and up. So Aaron his character refuses to go along with it.
Yeah.
In fact, he says, no, I'm going to go report this to the authorities. And so he does so. All the other players go, and, of course, they're ambushed. They have the combat.
Yeah.
Aaron shows up late, too.
Yeah.
And then, the players, and through some challenges, they finally subdue all the thieves.
Yeah.
Ross, I encourage when this comes out, take note of what Ross does because it's wonderful. It's like Bartleby at a young age.
I'm just playing a bard. Just playing a bard, happy bard, chaotic,
totally happy bard.
Yeah.
But of course, now there's like more than half a dozen bodies littering this area, and Aaron went to the authorities and told them that there's some shit. Like, all right, well, we have to go and look into it.
Yeah.
So he's there, and of course, right, nearby behind him were some city guards.
Yeah.
So just about everyone, most of the group decide, oh shit, it's like cops, flee, and disappear.
Yeah.
Aaron stays behind.
Yeah.
And I should also mention that they have thoroughly looted the bodies of all the guys that attacked.
Yeah.
And so Aaron says, like, what happened here? It says, and Aaron's giving a completely truthful description of what he knows.
Yeah.
Which is not everything. And he says, this guy, these guys are stabbed. This guy has a hole in his head. Like, oh yes, I shot him with this gun that I have built into my arm.
Yeah.
Who, and by the way, Ross had looted him, so had taken his armor and his weapon. So all they see is an unarmed body with a big hole in his head, and the Warforged just admitted, oh yes, I shot him because he was threatening my friends.
Yeah.
But he has no weapon.
Yeah.
So Aaron got basically arrested for that.
Yeah.
Then, of course, other things happened that caused him to, that fixed that. But it was the whole group was just. It was like there was a little bit of chuckling going on at that.
A good time was had by all.
Totally.
So the last campaign is Caleb's Better Angels,
Finally off the ground.
Spared and the Spoiled. And your character, holy shit, his backstory.
Well, as I recall, when Caleb was describing, the demons, he's like, okay, here's what the demons experience.
Yeah.
And the one that was inhabiting me, and you inhabit this new body, and looking into his soul, you realize you hit the demonic jackpot with this one.
No, you're a total Frank Miller Sin City character.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not like the good one. You're the one. Who's
I'm not.
You're not quite the yellow.
I'm not
bastard.
Hardigan.
You're not.
I'm
Hardigan.
Marv.
Yeah. Well, you're not even Marv. Like you're not. No. You're going to be someone Marv fights later on.
Yeah.
Like. That's what's going to be your character, because holy shit. But
yeah, you can go on the forum, the forum for it. My backstory's there.
And some other things. I'll try and post my backstory. I've been working on the book, so I haven't written up my
busy.
I can't remember if Aaron's done anything in particular extreme in that game or the other, but
no,
I know it's been a fun game. I'm trying to think. It was fun, and I'm looking forward to it. So
indeed, three. This is actually my first running a campaign for RPPR.
So
I've run a lot of one shots or one, two, or three shots, but never a full campaign. This is my first one.
So we're
gonna have so much material.
We have, of course, the back end. We're finishing up No Evil, which was done last year, and New York 80, which was done last year, and then we still haven't even started with the Iron Heroes campaign, which is done. This is the first time we've done a campaign with it was completely done before I even posted the first episode. So I'm releasing 6 episodes a month. Okay, to be fair, I'm releasing one every 5 days. I'm trying to. So.
We'll get him out there.
Yeah, we'll get him out there. We're slowly beginning to catch up. I'm sorry.
But we love you, fans.
Oh, God.
We love you.
So this has been RPPR episode 84, Murphy Rules. I'm Ross Payton.
I'm Tom Church.
Yes.
Wait, I'm Tom Church.
Yeah.